And let's see, pledge allegiance. Who does it? You did it last. Did Paul do it last?
You did last year.
You'll do the pledge of allegiance.
Yeah, but wait, I'm waiting on Facebook. Hold on. Yes, I'll be glad to.
Careful what you have.
Okay, I'm done.
I'll call the special council meeting to order and recognize Councilwoman Condon to lead us in the pledge of allegiance and the information.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, give us the patience and wisdom to conduct the town's business in a way that is pleasing to you. Take care of us tonight during the rainy winter season, and help to guide us and give us your blessings as we deserve. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Next item is the presentation by citizens. This would be where anyone who wants to discuss anything with the town council in regards to anything that's on the agenda tonight may do so at this time. All we ask is you come to the podium and just leave us, give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Ken Lovelace, Lovelace Commercial Contracting, 1821 State Street, KC 29033. We were asked by Morgan Grimble to bid the project that's being discussed tonight. We spent approximately 2 to 3 weeks working on our bid. We understand that the apparent low bidder was, his bid has been rejected. We are the next responsible and responsive bidder in line. We have a track record of having built parks and so forth. We built the Riverbank Zoo, Botanical Garden. We have done the Riverwalk across the Gervais Street Bridge. We built that entire project. We did the project for Irmo Chapin Recreation Commission in the wetlands. Just finished that a few years back. We have a track record of doing these type work, and we believe that we should be considered as the next responsive bidder. Now, I received an email that said that I'd had correspondence with Mr. Brown, whom I don't know. I'd never met him, and I have not said anything of that kind about the town of Irmo. Lovelace Commercial Contracting is a good builder. We were organized in 1986, and we would do you a very good job as your contractor. We don't understand why our bid amount is going to be awarded to some other company down here. It says approval of a contract amount, and that's our bid amount. Now, the way I interpret and the way we've interpreted, Jason Durstein's here with our company, we have been bidders for now on to ever. We have, you advertised in the state procurement, under the state procurement law, and as such, it's our understanding that the state procurement law should be the law under which you have to award the bid. And as the next responsible and responsive bidder, we ask that you award it to us. Now, the figure down here that you have, $970,050, is our bid. To take our bid and to allow that to reduce and award it to somebody else would be unfair. It would be more like an auction rather than a bid. Now, we put our time in, we spent our money doing that, and we believe that it would only be right for us to be considered. And Jason can read you a passage from the state procurement code, and it specifically says that you can't do what you're attempting to do.
Y'all mind if I pass this out? That way you guys get to read it as well. This is what you see on the first page, where y'all announce it on Skibo.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I've already passed a copy out.
Oh, that's-
Everybody got the same
Yeah,
thing?
We got that.
But what I want you to look at is actually on the third page there. That's the state procurement code. And what I have highlighted says, after bid, changes in bid prices or other provisions of bids prejudicial to the interest of the state or fair competition must not be permitted. After opening bid, bids must not be corrected or withdrawn except in accordance with the provision of this code and regulations promulgated pursuant to it.
Okay, so what I've seen through what you're trying to do is to use our bid, and I understand that you advertised and you said, you put a disclaimer in there that you didn't have to use any and all bids and so forth, but you would be allowed to award the job to another bidder at his price, but not at my price. And that's not fair, and I don't understand why you would do that, why you would pay more money.
That was going to be changed. I mean, that was a typo in the agenda.
Well, I mean, I don't understand why you would pay more money to get something when and that would be highly unfair. I'm going to close by saying that, I don't know if any of you are Rotarians or ever been to the Rotary, but when you don't do things that are fair to all parties, then you leave a bad taste. You leave a bad taste, and a bad taste with you too, because we have done nothing but point out to you what we believe is the truth and is the law. And if we don't stand up for ourselves, nobody else is going to do it. And we're fair-minded, and I pledge to you that we would do a great job for you, and we would try as hard as we could to do whatever you needed done. We're good contractors, and we ask you not to do this because we think that that's unfair to us. And nobody likes being used. I mean, if you were going to do this, you should have advertised and said, we have 2 people that we intend to award to, and out of these, and all the rest of you guys can just bid and set the price. But that's not right. That is not the right thing to do. And I'm asking you not to do that. We can do the job in the time frame that you guys say that you need it by August the 15th. And if you have the permits, which I'm told that you do, and that everything would be ready to go, we ask you to allow us, who was legitimate low bidder, to do the job. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next item on the agenda is new business, and I'm just going to take care of something. That thing keeps popping up again. I don't know why. Looks like I got to update something. I can't get the pages off there. What we have on here is approval of contract with Clearwater Company in the amount of $970,050 to construct the town park. We can, whatever anybody wants to do, take a motion for that. We can take a motion for a different price. We can also take a motion for the other company. So which one of the 3 options? Or we can just have a motion to award the contract and then discuss all the people, or the 2 companies, and then kind of go from there into what we need to do. Everybody understands that?
There was a typo on here.
Yes, there was. Well, first thing I need to do is defend myself, and I have the email right here that was sent out, and no place in there did I say that Mr. Lovelace talked to me. I said that Mr. Lovelace said he wouldn't work for the town. And that came from our consultant, so if you're calling him a liar, you guys deal with that later. The other thing is on the agenda, the price should have read $978,000, which was Mr. Elsey and Clearwater's price for that project. We have 2 bids. We have the one from Lovelace for $970,050. We have Elsey from Clearwater at $978,000. We had a lot of issues going on for the last few weeks, and it dealt with in-town business and whether or not he got the 2% preference. And Mr. Elsey has a number of businesses in town. That was my mistake. I assumed he was an in-town businessman. and he is. However, Clearwater Company is not in town, so he doesn't get the 2% preference. So the difference is $9,750.
So who's the lowest bidder?
Lovelace by $9,750.
Well, let's do a motion first to get it on there so we can discuss, and then we can discuss all those parameters.
Okay, I'll
Is
make
there a
mo-
motion
I'll
for-
make a motion for the approval of the contract to Clearwater in the amount of $978,050. That gets it on. If I get a second, then that'll get it on for discussion.
Second.
Okay.
And I'll recognize Councilman Hoops first, and then...
Let me ask something first. Okay, Mr. Lovelace's bid was $970,000. Okay, all right, I'm straight.
And if I may, before y'all get started, just for the public's kind of knowing what's going on, we did have an award. We did award the contract to another company that was in the amount of $999,000 or something to that effect.
The first one,
The first company.
$990,000. Yeah.
Just so the public knows, and if anybody's wondering why we're rebidding it. And that contract, or the bid, the original bid, there was a bid for the whole park less the picnic shelter, and then one for the picnic shelter, and they could be combined, but they were kind of two separate things. After looking at it, I think Bob determined that it was possible to get the picnic shelter done for less than what was on that bid. So we took that picnic shelter off the bid and just made it just for the park without the picnic shelter. At that time, the other company, Ladd, I think it was,
Ladd.
decided that they could not build a park for that $900 and some thousand. So they decided not to sign the contract. That's when we had to come back and award it to someone else. It was,
Was there a penalty for that? Is there a...
yeah, but I just want to kind of go over that so let people know how we got here. Because Clearwater was thought to be in town, and we have a policy in town or ordinance that says you can have a 2% preference, the call was made to Clearwater to see if they would accept the contract with the 2% difference or whatever, and they agreed. But after that happened, then we discovered they weren't in town. And we'd already decided, let's go ahead and have a special meeting and decide what to do and everything else. And I think, yeah, in order to be correct, if we're not, since he's not in town, we can't give the 2% preference. That makes his bid 978, and Lovelace is 970. And then we can kind of go from there. And I'll recognize Councilman Hoops since he made the motion.
Well, I made the motion, and, you know, I know that we're probably dealing with the technicality in one sense with the in-town business. I know that Clearwater has an office on Forest Court. Their sign is up there, it's been up there for years. I think it's been up there since they built the last park. And as well as other buildings which he owns in town and operates. So, you know, I honestly thought that that was sufficient for being in town myself.
Bob, did you?
Sure. When we worked with Mike Elsey back years ago in the Irmo Town Park, I understand that everything went real smooth, and I know he'll do a great job for us with this new park. That's no offense to the other construction company, contractor, but just not aware of your parks. And of course, you haven't built anything in Irmo, so that's why I think we ought to take Elsey because of this beautiful park we have across the street.
Anyone else?
You first, ladies first.
Okay. Well, I know Mr. Elsey from Chamber of Commerce and other areas, and I'm sure he would do a good job. I don't want Mr. Lovelace to think that we're awarding this out of anything that's dubious or against the law, that really bothers me, that anybody would think that. If we've done something wrong, I'm sorry, because we certainly didn't mean to. We've made some mistakes, but I think we've tried to correct them. But I don't want anyone to think badly of us, because we really aren't smart enough to do anything very wrong. I don't think, or too devious. But I would certainly appreciate you being here and telling us about it. Go ahead.
The LAD Construction was awarded this contract, and they said they could do it in the time frame that we said we needed to have it done. And for whatever reason, they decided that the 907 price, or the $999,000 price that they had got it for, was not enough to do it. So now they backed out. So that means they had to forfeit a bond of about, what, $45,000? Was that right?
$45,350.
Made out to the town of Irmo.
Correct.
And that's because, why? Because they didn't follow through on the contract?
They did not honor their bid.
They did not honor the bid.
Don't we
Which
have to have
means-
some kind of damage to get that money?
They submitted a bid, and they led us to believe that they could do the project for the $907,000. It went all the way through a council meeting and approval, and they waited until they got a contract in front of them and decided not to sign it.
Okay.
They can't fight it, and they know it. I mean, that's our protection.
That's fine. So the correct procedure was, if you couldn't do it, you shouldn't have made the bid at that amount, and you shouldn't have went forward to let council award this to you.
Correct.
Okay? So we followed Skibo's law by getting that $45,000 check. Right? We followed what we had put out for, said that this is your penalty for not following through for the contract. At the same time, we asked LAD, and we asked Loveless, and we asked Clearwater to make bids on this contract to see who can give us the best price to build this park. And it seems ever since these bids were open, that there's nothing been happening, but people have been trying to match prices, and one person saw they left $100,000 on the table, so they said, well, we can add $100,000 to it, and then when he got called on that, and they backed up and said, nope, we can't do that, so we're going to go for the 907 price. They get awarded the contract and realized they couldn't do it for that price. And then we go to the next responsive bidder, which we thought was Clearwater, and we found out that they don't have a business license in town, so they weren't an in-town business, and I don't have a dog in that fight. I mean, if they are, they are. If they're not, they're not. But they're not the lowest next responsive bidder. The lowest next responsive bidder is clearly Loveless Construction by about $9,000. Now, and I'm going to ask Clearwater the same question. Can they do this project by August 15th? Can it be done? And I'll ask them that question in a minute. But the bottom line is, we expected LAD to follow through with their commitment, and because they didn't, they got a penalty for it. Loveless expects town of Irmo to follow through on their commitment to award them the contract because they were the next lowest bidder. And if we don't do that, then now we might be in the same situation that LAD was in. I'm not trying to put words in Loveless's mouth or heads or whatever, but they might have grounds to say, well, you're not following through with your own procurement policy.
We are. We're not under the state procurement code. That's why we have
You keep saying that.
We have our own code,
You
right?
keep saying that, but you got a check for $45,000 from LAD.
That's in our procurement code.
For not following through with the commitment that they had made for this project.
We have that in our code.
So would they have the same legitimate right saying that they were the lowest responsive bidder, and we're not following through by awarding them a contract so they can in turn get a check for $45,000 from us for not giving them the contract?
Well, you're correct. I mean, their appeal process is sitting right here on this bench.
Right. So I'm saying, it's the same, it works. You can't have it one way. It can't be unilateral penalty, you know what I'm saying? It has to go both ways. I don't have a dog in the fight. I get no kickback from if Clearwater gets the contract, or if LAD gets the contract, or if Loveless. I don't have a dog in the fight. I do have a dog in the fight if the project is not done by August 15th. And that was clearly made to Loveless. I'm making it very clear to Clearwater that we're expecting the project to be completed by August 15th, no matter what. Now, if they can't do it by August 15th, speak up now or forever hold your peace. I don't want to hear about the weather. I don't want to hear about anything. I want to know that if they get this contract, if they're awarded a contract, they can get it done. And to be honest with you, if you want to look at apples and apples, Bob, you're saying that you made a typo of 970 on this agenda. I mean, I got an email right here that says that you wanted to match the price of Loveless Construction by 970.
That was when we thought it was a 2% preference, and it's not a 2%.
Okay, so
They get no
it wasn't
preference at all.
a typo. That's what you had planned on doing, and they agreed to do it for 970, which means that after the bids were open, you're adjusting prices now, which is
If they had a 2% preference, I've already told you 3 times.
Even if they didn't have a 2% preference.
They have nothing now. They have no preference.
Right, so they have to give it to them at so you
got
give it to them for $9,000 more than this gentleman's willing to do it for the same price. And this doesn't include the picnic shelter, does it? This is
Does
just
not.
okay.
Neither one of them do.
Yeah, neither one of them do. Okay. So my
Or
point.
the playground, right?
Or the playground, right.
Right.
The picnic shelter or the playground is not included in this. And that's fine. I mean, just as long as we can get this thing done, that's the bottom line for me. But I'm saying that, you keep saying that we don't have to abide by the responsive bidder, and you probably don't because of what you put in there. If that's our...
Well, that's the state procurement too. If you read the SCIBO up on the top, it says you can throw out any or all bids. That's your call.
But if you do that, then why bid it out? Why don't you just say, we want to know what the figures you're going to come up with, and we're going to pick somebody, our old buddy over here to do this project.
No, we picked Ladd to start with. He was the lowest bidder.
He wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
Why wasn't he?
He was the lowest bidder in the sense that when they opened the bids, it was 907, and that's correct. He was the lowest bidder at that point.
Right.
But they said they had made a technical numerical error, and he added $100,000 to their bid, and that's how it came to be $999,000. Okay, so technically that wasn't the lowest bid if you want to use what we have the numbers we have today.
Who is lower than 990?
970 is lower than 990, isn't it?
With the picnic shelter in there?
No, we're not the picnic shelter, I'm saying.
Well, let me say a couple things too. We did award it to the lowest bidder, which was Ladd, with the 999 and with the 907, if you do all the numbers. That's not a question. They couldn't do it, and that's really not important anymore either. As far as what's in the bid determines what date. Whether somebody wants to do it by August 15th, doesn't really matter. If the bid says they got, I won't say 90 days or whatever's in there.
180 days.
180 days, that's what they bid on, that's what they got. I think most of them probably can do it, and I think most of them, even that 180 days was what? Well, originally it was 9/1, I think.
There's a little fluff in there, but if it keeps raining, you're starting to use up your days quick.
Yeah. But we would stick with that 180 days from the day of the award. And they can tell us they can do it by 8/15, but they still, by our bid process, have got until 180 days at whatever day we award it.
Well, I'm going to ask that question. Can they do it by August 15th?
Well, they can answer, but it doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter.
Because they got 180 days.
It doesn't matter if I'm going to vote for it, it does matter.
Well,
It does.
but it doesn't matter to council, and doesn't matter
It matters to me.
Well,
I'm
okay.
on council,
That's
and it
fine.
does matter. So
The other ones can
it doesn't matter. It does matter.
stick to whatever.
Okay.
But go back to the thing that you were talking about, the 7950 is actually 7950 difference, 7,950 between this bid and that. When the other company decided they couldn't do it, Clearwater was given a in-town preference of 2% because they were perceived to be in town. Once it was discovered they're not in town.
That doesn't matter anymore. We already told that they're not, they don't qualify.
I'm going to speak.
So why are you even mentioning that?
Because I'm not through talking.
It's
Please,
not even
I let you
qualified,
speak,
man.
and I didn't respond to you, I'm going to speak. Once it was determined they weren't in town, they were not given the 2% preference, which means their bid is 978, the other bid is 970. Nowhere in our ordinance it does it tell we have to give it to the lowest bidder. We don't. We don't have to. Yes, you should have a good reason for not giving it to the lowest bidder, but you don't have to. We can give it to the highest bidder if we wanted to. Probably wouldn't be a wise thing to do, but at the same time, these two differences in these two bids are $8,000. If it's determined that council wants to give it to one over the other, then council has that majority right to do so. It's in our ordinance we can do so, and even in the bid thing, it says that they can eliminate anyone they want to. So the council can do what they want to. As far as the $47,000 or $45,000, that's a different subject too. We haven't cashed a check yet. We can send it back to the guy if we want to. And I think we're going to discuss that at some point before we leave.
We should have an executive.
So we can let Bob know what to do with that. But we can give it back to him and then, you know, or give a portion back, or give it, I don't know, we can just decide whatever. But until we cash that check, no, we haven't taken. He's giving it to us according to what our ordinance says, but if we send it back to him, there's no foul there either. We can decide that, council can decide that. That's a council choice.
Why would you do that?
Doesn't matter why.
Why would you
I'm
do
just
that?
saying we can't.
Why would you do that?
No.
I'm not going to discuss it here, why, I'm just saying because we're here for
Why
something
not?
else.
If
We
we're in a
can't.
public forum, why would you do that?
Because we're here to
They
discuss.
violated they violated their bid.
You can put that on the agenda next month.
It's $45,000.
Right now, we're just going to discuss this, and that's all we're here to discuss.
Should we go into executive session before we vote?
No.
If you want to, you can ask.
No, this is a public forum. These people need
I
to know
agree.
how we come to this decision. That's why they're here.
I understand.
Every council member has a right to ask, so if you want to ask for one,
I do.
Well, you do. Ask me.
I want to ask for it before we vote.
and for,
An executive session on a contractual matter.
okay. And there's been a motion for an executive session and for a contractual matter. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Let's go into executive session real quick, and I guess you're opposed to the executive?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll
We'll be right out,
Good folks.
and there'll be no action taken, just discussion. We'll come back out here and finish up.
Before y'all go, can I say something?
Jason Durstein with Loveless Contracting, same address as Ken. I mean, we're all local people here. I mean, I'm born and raised from Irmo, went to Irmo High School. I'm not saying anything disparaging to the other contractor, but we have done jobs in Irmo. We built the San Jose's just down the road from here. We paid our business license last year. We've done several projects with Morgan, and I mean, Morgan called me personally and asked me to bid this. So if he didn't think we were a good contractor, I don't think he would have called us. And all we're looking for is a fair shot. Bottom line, it's just a fair shot at what we worked hard to do. I mean, Ken has been in business since '86. You don't be in business by not doing a good job. So that's all I got.
Thank you. You ready? Got the word I was thinking of. We're out of executive session and call the order meeting back to order. No votes were taken, no decisions made. So we're back here to new business, approval of the contract. Is there any more discussion? All in favor of awarding the contract with Clearwater Company in the amount of $978,000 to construct the town park, will do so with show of hand. And all opposed? And just for the record, I'm opposing not because I'm opposed to giving it to Clearwater, but because I'm voting against spending the money altogether anyhow, which I did on the other one, so I'm going to be consistent and vote against spending money there. But
I'm opposed to giving somebody an $8,000 raise when we have a contractor who's willing to do it for $8,000 less.
And next thing on the agenda is presentation by citizens. Is there anyone here who would like to address Irmo Town Council on anything, regardless if it's on the agenda or not on the agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We need to, March 5th, you want to cancel the next council meeting? Not on the agenda, but we need to have an amendment to the agenda and talk and decide if you want. There's nothing right now for the agenda.
Well, I think as far as what you told me, everybody was kind of okay with canceling it. And just for the
I
public...
will be out of town.
Oh, okay. And just for the public record, next Tuesday, which would be our normal regular meeting, the first Tuesday of the month, because we actually have nothing pressing on the agenda, we're canceling next meeting. So just for the public to know that. And for staff, you can go out party and eat and drink and do whatever. Have a fun night.
And you might add that, as always in the past, if something were to come up, we could...
Something comes up as a big emergency, then we will still meet. All in favor of, was there a second for adjournment?
I made a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? We are adjourned.
Thank you.